Hey everyone, this is the episode you've probably been waiting for. This is where we're going to talk to Kyle about the keys to go from 5,000 a year on Airbnb to $350,000. Yes, I said it, $350,000 on Airbnb. So Kyle, this is going to be a fun episode, I think.
Hey, I'm a numbers person, and so numbers are my thing. If we get to talk numbers all day long, I'm gonna be happy. So let's do it.
Yeah, so let's paint the picture, right? So you start this journey Airbnb, you're like, "Hey, let me rent out a room." Go back to that first year where you did 5 grand. Why'd you do it? Why'd you invite strangers into your house? And how'd that first year go?
Yeah, I had just bought a house, and I was a first time home buyer. I was 25, 26 years old, and what happens when you buy a new house? The realtor doesn't tell you about, oh, by the way, when you get the loan, that's going to cost money. And oh, by the way, when you buy a house, you're not going to get 100% perfect home unless it's new construction. So you're probably going to have to put another 3 or 4,000 into it. And oh, by the way, there might be termites. Oh, by the way, yada, yada, yada. And so all this stuff, and you're like, wow, didn't know about this. Now suddenly what I thought was going to cost me $10,000 cost me $17,000. And I'm like, where did the money go that was in my bank account? And so I also had this other issue of like, okay, this mortgage is a little bit uncomfortable for me. This amount is a little bit out of my comfort zone. Sorry if you're hearing my dogs. I'm
That's
obviously doing
okay.
this from home. So I was like, all right, I have a couple roommates. They're going to pay, call it half of the mortgage. But then what about this fourth empty room that I have? And so I was kind of just talking with a buddy on the phone, and he's like, well, dude, you should do Airbnb. And I was like, what in the world is Airbnb?
So what year
And
is this? Just remind
this
people.
was end of 2014. I just
Okay,
bought the home, and I was about to embark on the Airbnb journey in 2015. But
got it.
he tells me word for word, he's like, well, it's really cool. Total strangers stay in a room, and all you have to do is just make sure the bed is made, and they just use it for a night, and then they leave after a night or 7 nights. And I was like, that sounds super sketchy.
Yeah.
And
Hi.
he
Yeah, none of
and
that sounds exciting at first
yeah,
blush.
exactly. I was like, I don't know if I want strangers in my house. And he goes, well, you can call it sketchy if you want, but I just did this out of one room in my apartment complex in Vegas and made $7,000 in 5 months.
Woo.
And I was like, okay, that would probably pay for my mortgage.
Yeah.
And
Why'd you bury the lead?
yeah, exactly. So I gave it a shot, and yeah, that first year was kind of slow. You're kind of like learning, okay, how do I market this thing, or like, what do people really want? And plus there was times when I was like, okay, I'm going to be gone this weekend. So I would close it off. And so, I would say we made close to like $5,500 the first year, which
Okay.
wasn't bad.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. So so now you've been in the business almost 5 full years. I just saw a post for you again, folks. If you're not following Kyle, you need to do that on Instagram. He'll share his IG name in just a minute. But you're going to do about 350K this year. So why don't we talk about kind of some of the keys and some of the big jumps, right? Because 5K a year to 350K, that's like a 70,000% increase. It's pretty
Right.
impressive.
Yeah. I would just say education and vision was really the big changing point. So it was 2018 when I went away for a weekend and said, I wonder what happens if I put my entire house on Airbnb for 3 days. And while on that vacation, it got booked all 3 days, and I made $450 while I wasn't even in the same city.
Huh.
And I was like, okay, that was special. Like that felt like passive income. And it felt like, if we do that 3 days, can we do that 30 days every month?
Hmm.
And so it was 2018 when my vision was kind of expanded a little bit. And so I just really got into education. I started listening to podcasts, and I came across this model of arbitrage, which to me was like mind blowing, because I thought you had to own the real estate in order to do Airbnb. But these people like Brian Page and a bunch of other people are talking about like, hey, I have 100 Airbnb units and I don't own a single one. I just lease them from a landlord and then sublease them on Airbnb. And so when I saw that, I was like, okay, how do I do that?
Yeah. I want me some of
And
that.
yeah, and so I pressed the green button, the ready, set, go
Yep.
on that on May of 2019.
Okay.
Got my first arbitrage unit. Ended up having 3 that first year, and of course, I was getting a couple just through, I bird a couple. I bought a couple conventionally. And then I bought another one with an investor. And, by the end of year one, which was the official year one, 2019, we had 5 or 6 units and we had grossed $62,000 in about half a year.
Wow.
And so that was awesome. And then, like I mentioned in a previous episode with you, 2020 has been all about starting a property management company through Airbnb and managing for other people. And now we went from 10 to 24 in a matter of about 4 months. And that has led us to, like you said, just over $350,000 gross is what we're expected to do this year. And oh, by the way, if you look at the bar graph of 2020, it was kind of this, and then July hit and it just went like this. So in 2021, as long as everything stays on the same trajectory, we should be doubling, possibly even tripling that.
Wow. So again, if lots of people out there have units, they've been thinking about Airbnb, how should they reach out to you if they have something in Fresno or Clovis?
Yeah. Instagram at Fearless Kyle. My website is fearlesskyle.com, or you can email me info@fearlesskyle.com. But easiest place if you're a techie person, it's honestly just Instagram at Fearless Kyle.
Very cool. So let's talk about the mental mindset. I think both of us believe a lot of this business is mental. What were some of the personal shifts that you've had to make, i.e. going from nothing to renting a room, from renting a room to renting a house, from renting your own stuff to arbitrage, and then arbitrage to doing your own? Because there's all kinds of stuff. Now you're helping manage other folks. How does Kyle, the person, evolve through all of that? Because I've seen tremendous growth, and it's only been a couple of years, but you've probably seen or observed more, I would guess.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I would say it's going from a technician mindset to an entrepreneur mindset.
Okay.
And according to the E-Myth, which if you haven't read that book, you need to, I'm truly not even an entrepreneur at this point. I'm more of a manager. But it's the idea of working on your business rather than working in your business. When I was doing a room out of my house, I had to be the person there, like I couldn't rent out a room out of my house if I wasn't there for the weekend, because people couldn't get in. People, had to rely on me.
Right.
And that's really a technician, it's taking that into real estate. If you're the one that's doing all the cold calling and taking all the leads and taking all the calls from the sellers, you're a technician. You could be a very successful technician. And if you really love doing that stuff, then by all means, keep doing it. But there's that point where you have to either use automation through technology, bring in assistants or virtual assistants, bring in people to do the things that you don't want to do. I had to stop cleaning places and started hiring cleaners. I had to hire people to communicate with the guests on the app instead of myself. And so now, even though we have 24 units, I would say for those 24 units, I might be putting in, 3 to 5 hours a week of work on that because I've really just kind of automated the process and hired really good people. And so that's one thing, is just kind of getting out of your own way as thinking like, oh, I'm the best person to do that. And honestly, Michael, like I was horrible at communicating with guests. Like it's one of my least favorite things to do because I just don't have much patience.
Right.
You don't know how to turn on the TV, really? Like I got to tell you how to turn on a TV. So it's stuff like that I was like, yeah, I need to outsource this because and honestly, like the results were great. We actually improved our star rating as soon as I outsourced that, because there was nicer people out there that could communicate with the guests.
Oh, that's funny.
So, it's things like that. And then I think the growth too, we already talked about on a previous episode, but it was the abundance mindset. It was, there's that point where you feel like you've discovered something really, really awesome that no one else knows about. And you think that you're going to saturate the market, or you think that you're going to create all this competition. But actually, when you start to share that and you have an abundance mindset, people want to do things with you and they don't want to do it on their own. And they want to either hire you as a mentor, or they want to do a deal together, or they want to literally give you the money to go find the deal. And I had to get out of my own way of that scarcity mindset and get into an abundance mindset. And so I would think those are probably the two biggest mind shifts that I've had.
Yeah, that scarcity to abundance is a good one, because I don't know what it is. I guess it's money. That's really what it is, right? When anytime you're going after something, and real estate is about money for lots of folks, you always feel like you have this little special, like you just want to hold things back. I get it a lot, right? I've been talking about Fresno as a great rental market for 10 years.
Mhm.
And I actually get people that call me and say, stop doing that. You're bringing too much. You're making people look. Why are you doing that? You're creating your own competition. I'm like, dude, I'm not special, right? I'm not big enough there's
Yeah.
millions of units out there. I mean, what are you kidding me? But yes, it's empowering. And again, I would tell you, yes, I've created my own competition, but my deal flow increases, right? I've gotten more
100%.
deals because I've been doing this for 10 years because I just give.
Yeah, well, it goes back to, do you want to have 100% of nothing or 50% of something?
Yeah.
And I think that's really like, the people that are telling you, hey, stop creating competition, are in that scarcity mindset, and they are the ones that are going to get hurt by you being abundant,
Mhm.
because they're over here keeping all of this a secret,
Yeah.
and they're cool with having 100% of nothing because they get 100% of all the stuff that they find. But it just limits your growth. It limits, and honestly, like our friend Mitch Pomeroy, like I love what he says. Let's get rich together.
There
Like
you
I
go.
I think it's way more um fulfilling to do this with people that you love or people that are friends of yours, rather
Yep.
than people just in, or rather than just yourself.
Yeah, I totally agree. You mentioned one thing earlier. I want to go back to that. You only spend about 5 hours a week, on your business today. I bet when you were just renting a room, right? So you had one unit or one door or whatever you want to call it. You probably were spending almost that amount of time on that unit.
Probably more.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Well, I mean, because if you think about it, let's just take one house, for example. The one that I started out with was a 1 bedroom, 1 bath
Sure.
apartment.
Yep.
And we would have as many as, 5 turnovers in a week. And I had not hired any cleaners at that point. And so just travel time to the place to clean it. I mean, I'm probably spending about an hour every time I do that.
Wow.
And there's your 5 hours right there in a week. Plus I was responding to guests.
Mhm.
Plus I was, managing the listing, and I was doing all this stuff. So it was, yeah, I mean, it was definitely just for managing one unit. I was doing all the work, and now I have the cleaners, I have the all the automation and the people in place to do that stuff. And now I get to focus on the things I do love. So I will tell you this: when you have a business that, gives you the flexibility to choose where you want to work in, no, it might not be the entrepreneur mindset to do this, but I just love managing a calendar and managing pricing. I love that.
Hmm.
Every day I wake up, the first 5 minutes after I've done my morning routine, I'm looking at the calendar and saying, okay, are all of my calendars prices optimized? And if so, if not, how can I change it to make it better? And that's like a puzzle for me. And I love
Yeah.
puzzles. So I just
Yeah.
love doing that. And should I outsource that if I'm a true entrepreneur? Yeah, I should, but I
Eh,
just love doing it. So I'm going to
there
keep
you
on
go.
doing it until I can't.
Yeah, and then the last thing we'll close on this episode is Airbnb has given you options, right? Options in time, choices. You can
Mhm.
do what you want. Let's just talk about that freedom, because again, right when you were, doing videos for athletes, time wasn't yours. Now time is, and let's just talk about what that freedom has meant to you.
Um, freedom to me it's about choices, but it's also a challenge at the same time, especially because of the reasons that you and I talked about in the last episode. It's what do we do as entrepreneurs? Well, or as just hardworking people. We work and work and work because we're trying to get to this purpose, this certain goal, this certain number that we want. And then we reach it, and we kind of forget our purpose, or we reach our purpose and we're like, yeah, we reached it. We do have more time with our family, or we do have more time and money to travel. But what about when I'm not traveling? What about when, if you're a parent and your spouse is, call it, a teacher and still wants to go teach, and your kids are at school, what are you doing from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. while they're
Right.
there? It's like you're bored. And so what do you default to? You default to working.
Yeah.
And before you know it, you're just accumulating goals without a purpose. And so I'm just always trying to figure out what the next thing is for me, on a personal standpoint.
Mhm.
And And so for me, like the freedom, yes, it is amazing. It gives me great satisfaction to know that I have these options. But it's also challenging at the same time because I'm like, okay, everyone that I know, it's Wednesday at 2 p.m. and I don't really have a lot to do. So like, what do I do? Do I go to the golf course? Yeah, that's something I could do. And that's awesome that I have that choice. But at the same time, am I going to be fulfilled by going to the golf course 5 times a week? Probably not.
No.
So it's just it's this constant, like, I don't want to call it a battle, but it's this constant challenge of figuring out, hey, what's going to fulfill me?
Yeah.
And so I've done things like, started to do volunteer over at the Fresno Bully Rescue here in town. I've taken on more passion projects, like helping my friend to get out of his job over in Phoenix as we're expanding the business. I feel like that's more of a passion project than an actual like business expansion.
Nice.
And now it's at the same time, it's like, okay, I can support a family. So let's go start a family. I need to find someone for that. Right.
You need the other half of that. Yeah.
So which leads me to my next point. Again, it's at Fearless Kyle on Instagram.
Yeah. Ladies, reach out.
So anyway, that's really, what I can say about the freedom,
Cool.
is that it's great. But it's also challenging because you're trying to figure out what's next a lot of the time.
Kyle, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you for these 3 episodes. Congrats on your success. Keep being you and authentic. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate you letting me talk to your audience.
Got it.